Welcome in, everybody. Before we get started, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. You know, all the YouTubey things. Forget what you think you know about justice. Welcome to the Virtual Juror, where snark is reality, but evidence is royalty. Where at first we look at the FACS, or Facts and Conjecture Shared, before we get into the real stuff. Welcome back. There's not a whole lot we can say about the start of today. There were no fireworks, and everyone seems to be getting along. We got through 8 witnesses, plus a recalled witnesses, so 9 took the stand in total. A lot of this was foundational, but relevant to the prosecution's case. Commonwealth witness 23 is still Dr. Richard Atkinson from the medical examiner's office. The doctor continued his testimony on the stand and had the difficult task of explaining how someone can die without a body to examine. He testified that without a body, he couldn't technically determine a manner or cause of death. However, he then proceeded to describe the contents of the rugs and the trash bags found in the dumpster, which included blood clots, potential human tissue, and a white, clumpy substance. It was a clinical way of saying, we don't have the body because it was turned into small pieces, while the defense suggested everything from a heart attack to an oopsie in the bedroom. In summary, Dr. Atkinson took the stand to present a macabre slideshow that Mrs. Walshe understandably wanted absolutely zero part of. We're talking photos of carpet stains that look like Rorschach tests from hell, blood clots saved in jars like terrible preserves, and a Gucci necklace charm that probably costs more than my car. The defense, doing their best to earn their paycheck, decided to play Stump the Chump with the medical examiner. They pointed out he isn't the deputy chief anymore. Ouch. And then launched into a wild game of death bingo. Since there's no body, the defense argued, how do we know she didn't die of a cafe coronary, choking on a sandwich? Or fright, literally scared to death? Or, wait for it, autoerotic asphyxiation. Yes, they went there. The doctor, ever the professional, admitted that while spontaneous death is a thing in the forensic world, it's pretty rare for a healthy 39-year-old to just drop dead of a heart arrhythmia without leaving a trace. If only we had a body to examine. The prosecution used the ME to explain the no body problem to the jury, while simultaneously introducing the most grotesque biological evidence found at the scene. Even without a cause of death, the presence of such biological material allows the jury to infer that Anna didn't just walk away or peacefully die in her sleep. For the defense, this was one of their strongest moments so far. They did a solid job creating reasonable doubt by leaning into the no body, no cause of death narrative. They hammered home the fact you cannot say how she died by listing every possible natural or accidental way a human can expire. They're trying to strip the elimination label off the disappearance. It's a prove she didn't choke on a pretzel strategy. The defense's theory that Brian merely disposed of a body that died naturally remains technically possible, however medically or morally absurd it may sound. Commonwealth witness 24 was Theresa Marchese of Tishman Speyer. She was one of Anna's bosses, at least in HR, who keeps receipts, knows about the approximately $500,000 life insurance, and realized Brian's work emergency story was as fake as a $3 bill. In summary, enter Theresa, the corporate boss, who knows exactly where her employees are supposed to be. She testified that Anna had a hefty life insurance policy. Motive, anyone? And that Brian's story about a work emergency in D.C. was absolutely fiction. Brian tried to play the cool, calm, and collected husband, telling Theresa that Anna was annoyed if he checked on her too soon. Meanwhile, a sad, wet Nespresso box sat on Anna's porch for days, acting as a silent witness to the fact that nobody had been home since the rain started. Theresa and her security team went full detective mode, calling hospitals and checking the house while Brian sobbed on the phone, until he suddenly stopped crying to ask if they'd found Anna's car. The defense tried to pivot to Anna's sick days and some unhappy tenants in D.C., presumably to suggest a disgruntled renter might have done it, or that Anna was secretly unhappy. For the prosecution, Theresa could be a star witness for timeline destruction. She proved there was no work emergency, establishing Brian's lie immediately. Her testimony about his shifting demeanor from calm to crying and back to calm could paint him as manipulative. For the defense, they tried to muddy the waters by bringing up FBI raids and angry tenants, attempting to introduce third-party culprits. However, according to Miss Marchese, the FBI raid had nothing to do with Anna, and was before she was even hired. They also highlighted that Brian was polite, trying to counter the monster narrative. The next witness was a recall of Commonwealth Witness 13, Davis Gould, for a my bad, wrong lab. In summary, Davis hopped back on the stand to issue a quick oops. Apparently, he cited the wrong lab earlier and needed to clarify that he separated some socks and a bracelet into different bags. It's the forensic equivalent of, I sent that email to the wrong person. Riveting stuff, truly. But protocol is protocol. It was neutral, just housekeeping. It shows the Commonwealth was being meticulous about the chain of custody to prevent the defense from claiming contamination later. Commonwealth Witness 25 was Hugh Dunleavy, a security expert for Tishman Speyer. This ex-Secret Service guy wasn't buying what Brian was selling. Dunleavy testified that when he first spoke to Brian about Anna being missing, Brian was cool as a cucumber. It was only later, when pressure mounted, that Brian morphed into an emotional wreck, hyperventilating about his missing wife. Dunleavy essentially told Brian, maybe you should try calling the police. He also poked a massive hole in Brian's she had a work emergency alibi, confirming there was absolutely no emergency in D.C. requiring Anna's presence. In summary, Hugh Dunleavy is not the guy you want to lie to. He's ex-Secret Service, so he can smell a rat from 3 states away. When Hugh told Brian to call the police, Brian pulled the I don't know the number for the local cops card. Really, Brian? You can Google how to dispose of a body, but you can't Google the Cohasset Police Department? Hugh eventually had someone drill the lock on Anna's DC house to prove she wasn't there. He also confirmed Anna's employment digital footprint vanished on December 30th. No emails, no swipes, no nothing. For the prosecution, this destroys the she left for work alibi. Hugh confirmed she never logged in and never arrived. Dunleavy effectively established that Brian lied early and often to people who could actually help find his wife. It also highlights Brian's bizarre reluctance to involve law enforcement. For the defense, they wisely chose to ask 0 questions. They didn't have much to work with, other than to suggest that shock manifests in mysterious ways. It's a tough sell to paint Brian's calmness as shock and his later emotion as reality, setting in when an ex-Secret Service agent says your client is acting shady. So, you sit down and you shut up. We're going to refer to Commonwealth Witnesses 26 through 30 as the retail squad. Patricia Patterson from Walgreens, Joseph Cesarz from the liquor store, Cade Reed from Lowe's, Jami Flint from CVS, and Gregory Dinneen from Stop & Shop. Brian Walshe's New Year's resolution apparently involved a tour of every store in Massachusetts to buy the Eliminator's starter pack, with cash. In summary, the Commonwealth paraded a lineup of retail managers to showcase Brian's unusual shopping spree. From Walgreens, Band-Aids, and triple antibiotic ointment, because dismembering people is tough on the cuticles. At the liquor store, he didn't buy booze. He bought dumpster space. He was caught on camera, awkwardly parking, and tossing a trash bag into a dumpster at the store when it was closed for the holiday. Nothing suspicious there. At Lowe's, the piece de resistance. Cade Reed was brought in to narrate the Home Improvement Elimination Edition surveillance tapes. The jury watched Brian Walshe, complete with a face mask and rubber gloves, because that has innocent shopper written all over it, purchasing a disturbingly specific shopping list. We're talking goggles, a Tyvek suit, Breaking Bad style, a hacksaw, a mop, buckets, and enough cleaning chemicals to sanitize a crime scene. He paid cash and wore a mask directly in front of a 4K camera. He couldn't help but cheese into, because safety first, right? At CVS and Stop and Shop, more hydrogen peroxide and ammonia. At this point, he's just hoarding chemicals. For the prosecution, the video evidence is visceral and potentially damning. The sheer volume of disposal and cleaning supplies purchased in cash, wearing masks and gloves, purchased days after his wife vanishes, does severe damage to the idea of an innocent husband. It directly contradicts with his alibi and could support premeditation, or at least the calculated cleanup theory. From the defense, silence. They didn't ask questions, because there's no good explanation for buying a hacksaw, ammonia, and 5-gallon buckets on New Year's Day. Commonwealth witness 31 is Matthew Sheehan from the MSP Crime Lab. The CSI guy found blood in the basement, while the defense pointed at the clean bedroom and bathrooms upstairs. This was a show and tell, with a bag of nightmares. He walked the jury through forensic evidence found in the Walshe home, as well as the items recovered from the dumpsters, piece by grotesque piece. In summary, Matthew Sheehan came in to ruin Brian's day completely. He testified that the basement was essentially a horror show. We're talking positive blood tests on the floor, the walls, a knife, a hacksaw, a hammer, a hatchet, shears, and the interior of a Tyvek suit. Basically, if it was in the basement, it probably had DNA on it. They even found a fatty, oily substance on the hatchet. Gross. The defense, grasping at straws, spent their time asking, but was the bedroom clean? Yes, the bedroom was clean. Did you check the ceiling? No. Could you have tracked dirt in? Maybe. They tried hard to suggest that since the bedroom didn't look like a slaughterhouse, maybe nothing bad happened, ignoring the blood-soaked dungeon downstairs. Hopefully, they'll poke more holes during cross-examination tomorrow than they did today. For the prosecution, this is the physical evidence that anchors the case. Sheehan began to provide the scientific backbone here by connecting the tools bought in the video to the biological evidence found in the dumpster. The prosecution is closing the loop. The fatty tissue detail was particularly graphic. Maybe it can be explained away somehow. Though it likely turned a few jurors' stomachs, driving home the reality of what may have happened to Anna. For the defense, their strategy is containment. Sheehan can't date the bloodstains or prove exactly when they got there. By highlighting the lack of blood in the bedroom, they attempt to bolster their "she died of natural causes in the bed" theory. Obviously, they can't deny the blood in the basement, so they're trying to isolate the crime to the basement and suggest the rest of the house and the kids in Brian's life was normal. They also flagged potential contamination to set up a future argument about the reliability of the DNA results. It's a valid technical point, but explaining away blood on a hacksaw could prove to be a tall order for any lawyer. Overall, the prosecution is methodically building its case. They don't have the smoking gun on his body, so they're using smaller bricks, surveillance videos, receipts, bloodstains, and Google searches to wall Brian in. Day 6 was effective because it visually connected Brian's actions, purchasing the tools, to the physical results, the confirmed blood on the tools. The jury could potentially see Brian as not just guilty, but cold, calculated, and frankly, stupid for thinking he could get away with it. The defense is maintaining he panicked. But this could be incredibly risky. By admitting he disposed of the body, they solve the "where is she" problem, but create a "why didn't you call 911" problem. Their wins on day 6 were technical, highlighting the lack of a definitive cause of death and the inability to date the bloodstains. They're hoping to find at least one juror who thinks, well, maybe he really is just the world's worst griever. Well, that's all we have. So as always, love your family, love your pets, love your neighbors, and we'll see you next time.